When the most famous mountain bike family starts their own bike company, you sit up and take notice. This is the Atherton AM.130, and we've been riding this trail shredding 3D printed titanium and carbon wonder to see if it lives up to the family name. Stay tuned for the full tech rundown on this stunner, but first off, our own resident downhill demon and technical editor Luke Marshall has been finding out just how this thing rides.
First things first, a bike coming from a family of downhill world champions and race winners should descend like its hair's on fire. Perhaps unsurprisingly then, the AM.130.1 is, in my eyes, the new benchmark for short travel trail bikes. It's so competent on the downs, I actually had to check they hadn't sent me the bigger sibling, the 150 by mistake. The DW6 platform offers an incredible balance between sensitivity and support, turning this little 130mm travel bike into a potent trail rocket. Its small bump compliance irons out speed-sapping trail imperfections and high-frequency bumps with a soothing touch of a longer travel bike. Yet, it remains light-footed and eager to respond to any rider inputs. This isn't to say the bike mutes the trail like a plush 160mm travel enduro bike. It doesn't. But it flutters over the bike park rubble and trail-centered chunk and does well to take the sting out of those frustratingly bumpy but not rough trails. In a blind test, I would guess there's more travel on tap than the 130mm. Again, it can't keep up with an enduro bike, but for a short travel trail bike, it eats bumps for breakfast and comes back for seconds. While it devours the bumps well for its travel, the AM.130.1 is still lively and eager to charge through the turns. While its stats on paper may seem twitchy, it balances its keenness to dive into turns with a stability that delivers confidence. This makes the bike great for nipping through quick, jinking turns where you can take advantage of its nimble yet surprisingly sure-footed feeling. As you might expect for a bike with so much descending prowess, the AM.130.1 isn't the most spirited 130mm travel trail bike uphill, but it's no slouch either. Once it settles into its sag point, there's a noticeable absence of demoralizing bob while seated pedaling. The rear end remains stable even with the shock set open, while still offering enough sensitivity to smooth out trail imperfections comfortably. When you stand up and push it, the suspension's sensitive beginning stroke becomes apparent, yet it doesn't hold the bike back when you stomp on the pedals, displaying an eagerness to charge forwards. I experimented with the shock climb switch, and firming up the rear end proves beneficial. It elevates the bottom bracket, steepens the head angle, adjusts the effective seat tube angle, and subtly shifts the weight forward. All this is very marginal though. This puts you in a comfortable position on the bike to manage the handling on steeps and means you get fewer pedal strikes from the low bottom bracket. The climbing performance gets an extra boost from Continental's Zinnotal Trail tyres. They roll surprisingly well without feeling like they're sapping your energy, despite the grip they offer. All told, the AM.130.1 is a solid climber, happily zipping around the mountainside. However, in the realm of 130mm travel trail bikes, snappier bikes are available for those seeking an extra dose of responsiveness. It's all pretty rosy so far. Now, for the reality check. The SRAM G2 RSC brakes with 180mm rotors might leave you wanting a bit more stopping power on steep descents. Given the price of £7,800 or $7,735, it'd be nice to see the latest wireless SRAM XO T-Type rather than its older XO1 mechanical drivetrain. And while making the change, I'd swap to some 165mm cranks too. And if that price is too much to stomach, Atherton soon offer a full range of bikes in lugged aluminium too, with prices starting from £4,800 for complete builds. Still, it's nice to see a complement of XO1 across the board rather than see a downgrade shifter, chain or cassette as is often seen on some rivals. RockShox take care of the suspension with the 140mm Pike Ultima RC2 with the Charger 2.1 damper. There's also a Super Deluxe Ultima RCT shock. Again, it would be nice to see the Pike equipped with the latest RockShox Charger 3 damper rather than the older 2.1 model.
We've got an exclusive on those aluminium bikes, so check out our short video on them with the banner above, or check out the latest issue of MB UK magazine for more details. Right then, now we've covered the ride impressions, let's get our nerd hats on and see what makes the AM130 so unique. Atherton's additive manufacturing involves 3D printing these titanium lugs. Imagine old lugged road bike frames brought into the 21st century and you'll get the idea. A Renishaw machine uses 4 lasers to melt together thin layers of titanium alloy powder, creating lugs with up to 3,500 layers over approximately 16 hours. After printing, the lugs undergo heat treatment, are cut from their base, and received a hand-finished touch for that final appearance. Threads and bearing seats are precisely cut before being bonded to the frame's carbon fibre tubing. The beauty of these 3D printed lugs and carbon tubes lies in their versatility. The lugs can be designed to almost any shape and the tubes cut to specific lengths. Because of this, Atherton are able to offer the AM130 in an impressive 22 frame size options, along with the option for custom geometry frames. This gives you far more sizing options than its rivals, which normally have 4 or 5, maybe 6 sizes to choose from. The manufacturing process is both complex and kind of simple at the same time, a bit like the features on the bike itself. There's no internal frame storage, adjustable geometry or extra mounts for tools. However, it does include practical elements like a water bottle mount, internally sleeved cable routing and thoughtful frame protection on the dam tube and chainstays. While the frame features might be stripped back, the DW6 suspension is actually pretty complex. DW refers to designer Dave Weagle, while the 6 refers to the fact this is a 6-bar suspension design. Bear with me while I explain because this isn't easy. The 6 bars include the main frame, 2 short links connecting the chainstays, the chainstay itself, the seat stay and the upper rocker link. So you could see this pivot setup as a mix of a twin link with a horse link. You still with me? Right, going into more detail. The chainstays connect to the main frame through 2 short links, creating its own centre of curvature that moves during compression. Think of it as a twin link bike from brands like Ibis, Pivot and Giant. However, instead of a solid rear triangle, an extra horse link pivot splits the rear triangle. The axle and brake mount find their place on the seat stay, driving a rocker on the seat tube to compress the shock, just like a horse link design. The idea is to give Atherton and Weagle more control over the suspension's kinematics and keep them consistent as the frame size changes. It's cool to see this twist on 2 established designs, as we often see horse link or dual link, DW or VPP style systems on rivals, such as Specialized Stumpjumper or Santa Cruz's 5010. Going back to those whopping 22 size options, Luke tested a size 5 for his 173cm height. This gives a modest 450mm reach, a trail-friendly 65.5° head angle and steep 78° effective seat tube angle. These combine to give the AM130 a comfortable 581mm effective top tube length. There's a short and snappy 433mm chainstay length and low 335mm bottom bracket height, which likely help explain the bike's playful demeanour. The seat tube is a short 380mm, allowing plenty of room to move around the bike and fit a long travel dropper post. In many areas, the Atherton sits close to some of its more mainstream rivals, mainly Norco's Fluid and Transition Smuggler, both of which have very similar numbers. On paper, the key stats aren't boundary pushing, and some would argue they could be a little outdated, but there's more to a bike than just the geometry figures. And if you think you can do a better job than Atherton, you can always go down the custom geometry route. But as Luke found, they've done a sterling job with the stock numbers. In a crowded market full of bikes often accused of being literal carbon copies of each other, it's nice to see a bike like the AM130 stand out from the crowd. The manufacturing process and approach to sizing and customization are fairly unique, and there are few brands that can boast such famous racers as the owners. Being handmade right here in the UK has its own appeal, but does come with a heady price. At nearly £8,000 either side of the Atlantic, you pay a premium over its rivals. The overriding thing though is just how well the bike rides. In our eyes, it sets a new benchmark for short travel bikes. It might not be as poppy and playful as the Norco Fluid, as efficient as Transition Smuggler, or as adjustable as Specialized Stump Jumper, but the AM130 ploughs its own path. The suspension performance when descending is exceptional, but not at the expense of being a lumbering beast on the climbs. Yes, there are more pedal-friendly trail bikes out there, but few bikes have been this engaging and this much fun to ride. And come on, can you name a better looking bike than this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us make content for you to enjoy. And if you want to see 5 more bikes we think should be on your radar, check this out.